let me start with Nana Himba. Nana, you have not had the opportunity to speak like your other colleagues. Maybe just a few brief remarks on what is the way forward for, and you could use the microphones on beside you. Where do we need to go from here after such an engagement? And you can please say.
When did you, what did you, please teach? They have a wealth of knowledge. Let's seek their wisdom. Let's see. That does not dehumanize or delimit us. It makes us stronger. We say, Nyasa any day, Obaku for you. I'm not following. If I follow, I'm right. So we need also to lead into an individual knowledge. Our system, our proverbs, our songs and dances, our repositories of knowledge, wealth of knowledge. We need to learn them in the classrooms. At the very, very young age, we should be telling children that Mary Manu's here or bad woman to really give them a sense of pride in who they are. We have to start early. Education. Religion has not helped us much. I won't go there yet. But we have to be very, very critical of how we are being taught and how we learn and take the information. We're very critical of what is taught to us because it's not all good. We want to empower ourselves to be brave, to be proud, beautiful, smart, and courageous, because that is who we are. Claim it! Let's claim it.
Professor Chair, I was almost tempted to close the meeting on this very special note that Nana has charged our women and especially our girls to rise to the moment and to lead. I think that should be the driving focus of today's discussion, that as you leave here, go out there and lead. Just be the woman, the African woman that you were created to be. And I'm sure that as you all step up to the game, you stop blaming the men as a cause of your woes. Thank you very much. But Nana, thank you. Thank you very much. How can we balance our cultural preservation with the need for innovative leadership approaches? So, yes, we want to stay true to our tradition, but the world is evolving. How can we balance it, especially in empowering women, so that we don't depart from our true history, but we also don't stay too far behind on the innovative, evolving trends that we find? Okay, I think Nana has his microphone. Yeah. If you could please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you could please increase that a bit.
Yeah. No, that's a very excellent question. I think, though, it comes from the perception that somehow culture is static, right? And if you take the perception that culture is static, then you get into the issue of what we are in the present now. So why do we have to go back to our traditions and that? No culture is static, just as no culture is immune to criticism, right? Our culture grows. And if I even look at our rural communities, right, when people live their lives, they borrow from culture, but they also use that culture to address contemporary problems, right? So we cannot just perceive culture to be something frozen or static. It's dynamic, right? And so it's not an either-or situation. We cannot look, a people without a culture is a people who are derooted, right? When you don't have a culture, who are you? Without our culture, we are nobody, right? And the point is that our culture, we need to interrogate, as I said. We need to question certain aspects of our culture, because certain aspects of our culture can be very disempowering to women. Some of the aspects of our culture are very patriarchal, and we need to interrogate that. But that doesn't mean that we disregard it. I think we need to look at a critical interrogation of culture and use it to address contemporary problems. I think Nahima talked about and I think also Candice. The whole question of Sankofa, right? Sankofa is go back and fetch. It doesn't mean go back and fetch everything that was there. Go back and fetch that which was or which is useful for the present. And that's what it is. So let's look at culture as lifelong, as dynamic, as growing, right? And that tradition and modern are not two sides of the opposite coin. They are the same, basically. But there's a very colonial construction of culture which says that somehow our culture is static, is barbaric, and I think people without a culture is a derooted people, and we need to get rid of that, right? And see culture as dynamic and something growing.
Thank you, Nana. Let me check in the audience. If any of you has a question or a comment, before I come to you, then I can know how many people might have a question or comment to ask. Please just show by hand. And if you don't actually ask, I'll bring the microphones to you. So please get yourself ready. Was there a hand somewhere? Okay, there's one here. I just want to know, then I'll know how many people, especially those from the senior high schools here. Somebody has a hand here. Okay, another one here. 3, 4. Okay, I'll take those 4. But before we do, Professor Moore, when we arrive, how would we know we have arrived? What are the success factors? What are the indicators that would show that Africa has arrived in terms of empowering its women? I don't know if you get what I mean. What would you like to see that will be an indicator for you that Ghana, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia has arrived in creating equilibrium between its male population and female population? What do you want to see?
Thank you for the question. My thought is that arrival seems like an endpoint. And maybe it's because of the way that I see the world. I don't necessarily see it as we are looking for an endpoint. I want us to be in a place where we are constantly evolving. Because just as Nana indicated, culture is not stagnant, it is dynamic. And inevitably, as people continue to evolve, we should look toward innovation and we should look toward ways to incorporate the change that's happening in our communities to address that. So if we arrive at something, I almost feel like we will stop, right? As my husband likes to say when he drops me places, your money is finished. No, it is not finished. It is a constant effort to continue to be responsive to community needs and also acknowledge that we don't always have all of the information we need at any given time. And so we need to be in a seat of learning and willingness and openness. So inherent in how women even address the world and think about engaging with others, we have the ability to be dynamic. We are so many roles at one time in any given day and often in any given moment. And so I don't necessarily want us to arrive at a point, rather I want us to always be open to the possibilities and be responsive in innovative ways that again does bring lessons from the past, but is also willing to see the innovation of the future.
Thank you very much, Professor Moore, for that. So, in essence, what you're saying is, let's not really see there's an arrival point, but let's evolve with the times and grow along with it, and then we can see that the women are growing along, everybody is growing along, the systems are growing along. All right, thank you very much for that. There was a comment, and maybe I'll come to Nana Hima, a comment posted in the virtual chat. Let me read that. It says, as we celebrate the contributions of African women in leadership in post-colonial Africa, the debate to adopt a quota system for women in our political systems, that is the legislature, is still part of our national discourse. We would like to know what our panelists think about the need to institutionalize a continental approach to a quota system for more opportunities for African women in leadership. And this, I'll ask Nanaima and then I'll come to Nadia on the same question. So I think what the questioner is asking is, Should political parties, for example, say, okay, we're reserving these number of seats for just women. You know, we're reserving these corporate jobs for just women. We're reserving, if we have 10 public universities, we're leaving 5 or 6 of the VC positions for women. Should we institutionalize these, or should it just be merit-based? The woman should go for it. The man should go for it. Let the best candidate win. Prof, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I like the idea of the quota-based. At the same time, though, I think women, for example, if we say women could to have 5 positions in the let's say the parliamentary area, my concern is that there could be more women. There could be more women, and so by giving a quota, we should say that, but we also have to say, you know, we can have a quota. In addition to that, we should also be open to having more women's positions if the talent is there and the leadership skills are there, so that we don't box women into just a limited amount.
But Nana,
Right.
will that not also be a certain unfair preferential treatment of women who perhaps, you know, because we have a quota, they might not really qualify for the place, but because it's quota, they just find themselves being pushed in there?
Well,
What do you
no,
think?
I think there are many women out there, actually. There are many, many, many women who can do the job. In fact, I even see a government of all women.
Oh my.
Because women can do it and are capable of doing it, right? And so I think the quota idea is a way to push and to force the system, right, to allow women. But at the same time, we should be open to the fact that it's possible we can have more women than being quoted.
Okay. Let me hear Nadia's thoughts. She's from a much younger generation than Nana's generation. So let's see what Nadia tells us.
I am actually in the middle ground here. I think that in this discourse, there's this idea of what they call equity-based meritocracy. And the idea is you start out with a quota, and then as more women are getting opportunities, you phase it out as you go. And there are countries that have done this really well. Norway, Rwanda are case studies for quotas. And it's worked, but at the same time, there's 2 sides to the conversation. One is when we assume that by increasing a quota, women who are not qualified will get the position. What we are inherently saying is that women are not competent, which is not true. Women are competent. So if you have a quota there, you will find a woman who can do the job, I guarantee you. But at the same time, we don't want a case where we have in 50 years, like we were saying earlier, the issue of the boy child not having access to opportunities because we merely gave it to women. So I think that government should have a fair approach to it, evaluate your system, and then I am in the middle ground here. Equity-based meritocracy is what I would say.
I like that terminology. So begin from equity, create an equitable system, and then you progressively migrate towards meritocracy.
Exactly.
Where now, whether it's male or female, you really get there because you're qualified and not because you are a man or you are a woman.
Yeah. And I'm so sorry, might I also add that it's important that we look at the systems, right? The systems underlying our society. Look at issues like access to finance, fix the issues there. Look at issues, pertaining to education. When we fix these systemic barriers, we realize that inherently you have more women who are able to do these jobs, and so I think that helps as well.
Well, I'm not sure if I agreed on that last call. So when you fix it, I'll come to Nana soon, because Nana wants to say that then inherently you would naturally have more women who would come up to that.
So
I think that aligns with what Nana Hima was saying. The women believe that there are more qualified women out there than men. So.
No, not more qualified than men, but qualified. There's a difference.
Okay, let's hear. Nana, you're a sociologist, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hear you.
Look, by my remarks, I talked about the lens, the type of question we ask, give us answers we want, right? This whole idea of merit, we need to interrogate that, to question that, what constitutes merit? Merit is a group of men sitting down, deciding this is what is legitimate, this is what is valid. So we need to interrogate the question of merit, right? You cannot just simply say, oh, well, somehow if you give the position to women, they are unqualified, when you have used a lens that is male-centered. And that. So that's why we need to question the lens that we use. And I think if there's a problem, you have to solve it. And one way to solve a problem is you are intentional, right? And that will call for representation. It has to be addressed. You can't take it out of the equation. It has to be part of this discussion. Men have gotten what they have gotten, not because they are more qualified than women. It's because the people who made the decisions were men. That's the truth, right? And we need to be very, very frank about that. Yeah.
Well, so if I hear Nana right, it depends on who is setting the marking scheme. There are often men who set the marking scheme. Wow. Well, let's hear you now, those of you here. And if you're still online and you have some questions, please, you may post them and we'll see if we can take one or two online. But we had 4 hands. I would respectfully plead that we take just those 4 and maybe 1 or 2 online, then we can bring our engagement to. Let me see those hands again, and then I can bring the microphones. Do we have some microphones that we could take down here, or I have to give them this? Maybe can the 4 just please come here and then you ask your questions? Please encourage the young woman. Put your hands together for her.
Thank you. As soon as our parents bring us to school and we complete SS, like they'll say that unless we marry them, like they give us out. So, and after the marriage, you see most of them, they are on the street selling pure water, but if they are given the chance, they'll do something better. So please, which advice are you going to give to our Muslim parents? And secondly, since we want to socialize or indigenize our institutions, which advice are you going to give to our leaders? Mostly if we speak Ga, Chi in our schools, they are going to be punished. So which advice are you going to give to them? Thank you.
Firstly, thank you for your question. I appreciate you asking. I think that there is a value between religion and culture and progressive thinking. And there needs to be a welcome balance of all of it. It is important not to throw away what you have come to learn and what is a part of your life. And if your faith is being guided by the direction of your parents, you don't want to just throw that aside. It is important, though, however, to reason with parents and ask them about ways in which they are open to the progression that society is making. There is a delicate balance, I think, between valuing that which you have been taught and exploring that which is available to you. I do think that there are a number of Muslim families that are open not only to their daughters receiving education at the secondary level, but are really pushing for them to go to tertiary education and looking for careers. It may also become important for some parents who are curious about what that looks like to engage with other community members who have been able to support their young girls in advancing in this way and understanding how they can do it as well. So it's almost as if the parents need some femtorship as well, right? To help them know that it is okay, because sometimes we can't see something if we have not been exposed to it. So I do think it is possible. It's a delicate balance, and I think that parents are receptive to seeing their children advance. Oftentimes, they may need additional support by way of seeing others that have supported their children as well.
So I remember when I was in primary school, when we spoke Akan, Chi, or Ga, we were beaten, we were whipped. You know, and there was even a sign, no vernacular here, spoken here, which meant that we had to speak English. And so this goes back to the question or a comment that Nana made, that we must smile with our own teeth. We are not smiling with our own teeth, we are smiling with other people's teeth. We have to understand that language is identity. Language defines who we are. Language is who we are. And so if we are not encouraged to speak our own people, who are we becoming? Or what have we become? We become imposters. English has a specific cultural context. And it defines who they are in their particular European context, which is so different from what we have here. So if we are speaking English here, what does that really mean? Do we really know who we are? We are not. Our language defines who we are. Our language roots us as Africans. And we need to encourage our students to speak our languages, Ga, Ewe, Hausa, whatever, because it really instills pride and confidence, because it is who we are, it is our environment. We can mentally relate. I was in Cape Coast the other day, and there was a school next door, and the very first thing they played at the school, London Bridge is falling down for... Who cares about London Bridge falling down? Seriously, look at Amasama Road. It's falling down. We should be making songs about that in our languages. Right? We have to engage in our own lived experiences, because that's who we are. Borrowing from someone doesn't really help us. We become zombies. And the education system right now is training us to be slaves for somebody else. We finish school, our children finish school, and they can't function because they are learning about Descartes, they are learning about Foucault, they are learning about Mozart, they are learning about Beethoven. What the heck? What about Amo? What about Premprensois? What about Sepriwa? Go through these books. When they talk about musical instruments, they have European drums and timpanis and flutes and violins. We have our own Sepriwa. We have our own Deuro. We have our own Atompai. Why aren't we promoting those? So our kids can identify and have a sense of pride in who they are. So language is key to who we are, and we need to speak them. You know, parents are speaking English to their children, 2 years old, 3-year-olds. Why? And the English is not even the best. To be honest, right? So please, the language is very, very important. It's who we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nana Hima. A big round of applause for Nana Hima. Wow. I'm wondering why we saved the best for the last, but because it's getting more interesting now. Let's hear our friend.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So I'd like to specifically direct my question to Ms. Baye. You highlighted and touched on some of the suggestions that you had, like sensitization, amongst others. And I wanted to ask specifically, as a young person and as a young woman, when you enter certain spaces, what are some things that we can do at the grassroots to engage this conversation? Because a lot of the things you mentioned have to do with policymakers, but in our everyday lives and interactions, what are some of the things that we can do to ensure that we're also supporting fellow women, into stepping into leadership, and even suggestions for young men as well that work around women? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a very important one. I think community is very important in this conversation. And from schools to families, families are typically our first teachers. And so even in the home, parents need to educate their children, empower their young girls to understand that they're as important as the boys, to understand that they also have purpose, they have a role to play. In terms of the grassroots level, I think mobilizing at the community level is extremely important. So having the chiefs gather community members, talking about the importance of education for girls, talking about the importance of reading and acquiring knowledge is extremely important too. And when it comes to supporting women at large, I would say look in your community. Who are the women business owners? Go buy corn from her, shower her with love, encourage her with words, let her know that she's important and adding value, because at the end of the day, she's part of the supply chain, right? And so she's adding some economic value. And so support Ghanaian businesses, support African businesses, and be intentional about the decisions you make about, and also about the words you sow into girls. Because sometimes you throw words carelessly, but you don't realize it's a seed that sprouts forth bad fruits much, much later down the line. Build the confidence of the girls around you, empower them, pour into them, and I believe that our country and continent will be a much better place to be.
Let me take a healthy risk. I'll ask Nadia and then I'll come to Nana. Nadia, are women their own enemies? What do you say to that?
Am I safe? That's the question. Can I really speak the truth? Because in my work, working in what you would typically call a women's organization, where you're gathering women across different spheres and across different fields, sometimes it's almost like we're competing with one another as opposed to collaboration. And it shows, and it's unfortunate. But I believe conversations like these will open our eyes and push us to where we need to be. But there's definitely competitiveness instead of collaboration. And I think sometimes it's because the space is so stifled and saturated, and the opportunities are not as much. But as we go on, I believe it will get better.
Nana, I'm asking you from a father and a man's perspective. Do we see women as their own enemies?
No.
Nana wants to walk out here safe. So.
No, but this, am I on? Yeah. No, this is something I write about, right? So, no. To me, what you're saying is like, you mess up the river upstream, and then you run downstream and said, who did that, right? We have systems and structures in place that position women where they are, right? So when she talked about the lack of cooperation, the lack of collaboration, why is it? It's because we live in a system where there's so much competition, right? There's so much division, rather than talk about community and relationality that I spoke about, right? And so to me, I would say yes, I think to the extent that women need to collaborate, I think that's relevant, but that doesn't mean they are the worst enemies. I think the system creates the division, it creates the hierarchies that position women in that way, and we need to call it for what it is. That's what is the problem. Thank you,
Nana. Thank you. A big round of applause. There was a third hand. Yes. Let's allow a man to ask a question, please. Please come.
All right. Thank you so much. I have two questions, but I would like to make it brief. Before I ask my question, we mostly say that in the Akan language that a tutua is sibemabo. So in essence, we see that men are being empowered all because of women. Because when there's a trouble, they are looking for the men in leadership. So that's just by the way. And, my first question is, how do we deal with that mentality when it comes to women leadership? Because in the aspect of the majority, when we look at leadership, when a woman is contending with a man when it comes to position, we find that even majority of the women will prefer the man than the woman. How do we deal with that mentality in the first angle, apart from education? Because we might, like what we are doing now is education. But in the practical aspect, how do we deal with such kind of a mentality where women even prefer men to lead more than women? And my second question is, when we look at originally from the creator's mentality, that is God, He created man in the first place to be in leadership and brought the woman to be an helpmate. Don't we see that that is a sort of a limitation when it comes to women leadership, when we come to that kind of a balance? Thank you so much.
Prof. Chair, Abrante, open the asem. Open the asem. I know Nana Hima is itching too. Nana, let me allow you, but please make it succinct.
Yeah, I'll answer the second one. Do you believe that? I don't. I don't believe that man was created first and woman came second. That's all I have to say.
I think his first question ties in a bit with what we were discussing prior to him asking the question that, you find two women, in an office, and the things that naturally you will not find two men so much battle over. The woman will prefer, okay, then let it go to a man rather than it staying with another woman. And I think that's the question was asking, that how do we help women to deal with the situation that it's best if it's with a woman as well, and even if it's not you and it has to go. Maybe Prof. Candace, you want to address?
I will offer a perspective and then allow to end. Okay. You're talking about a cultural shift. And cultural shift does require education. It also requires empowerment, and it requires a buy-in to the fact that we will encourage our young girls to take leadership upon a decision or upon an activity or upon an engagement, even in their home. So sometimes we may relegate even our girls to wait for their brothers or to take the decision that their elder cousin may make, instead of encouraging them to critically think about the circumstance, and we will lead with your decision instead of what your brother or your older cousin, your male cousin may say. And so you're asking for a cultural shift, and that is, it starts really at home. And it starts with us reinforcing those lessons of empowerment. And then I do think that there is a importance around, even in our educational spaces, our classroom teachers, how they approach young girls and young boys with regard to who gets to be the leader, right, of an activity, or who gets to lead a song. We have been taught, and it has been overly ingrained to us, what women are supposed to do in a society, what men are supposed to do in a society. And those are taught behaviors. No one said this is how it has to be, but because we were taught that it was. So in order to shift a culture, you have to unlearn some of those expectations that we place on our communities. That would be my submission.
Well, please give it up for her. Let me respectfully, because I think we've done well over 3 hours. Let's take just 2, and then respectfully, we can bring our engagement. We'll shift the discussion to the AFLIGA website. If you go there, it's very interactive. You can post your comments and questions there. Prof. Nana Dey's sister had a hand here. Please, we'll take your question.
I just want to make a comment. And I felt that I should make note so that I don't leave anything out. I said, for me, rethinking African female leadership means reclaiming our role as designers of systems, not just participants in them. It means anchoring our leadership not in borrowed frameworks, but in resilience, wisdom, and boldness. And that has always existed in our communities. If we look at, our queen mothers, market leaders, to educators, caregivers, and legacy builders. And I speak as someone who, against all odds, I have, a group of companies in the UK which is again generational. So all my 3 daughters are very much leaders in that field. So I am very much all for looking at things that as women of African descent, whether we are in Accra or Oyuko, where I come from, which does not even, you can't see it on the map, or in London, our leadership must return to the well of our wisdom, not to imitate the systems, but the systems that we escaped, but to build the ones we deserve. Thank you.
Wow. I'm sure you'd all agree we have our next keynote speaker in there. Thank you very much for your comments to us. I would respectfully plead with all of you. I know the discussion is getting a bit more engaging, and this excites us. It tells us that what AFLIGA perceives as the roadmap towards engaging communities, engaging individuals on very useful subjects that will bring transformation to our continent. These things are dear to all of us, our hearts. So we feel confident that if we should rally you around the table again for another Thought Leadership Series, you obviously would show up and then share your thoughts on these important subjects. I'll give 20 seconds to each of them to just share any final thoughts they have with us. And please forgive me, our colleagues and friends online, we have seen your very important questions, but as I've said, please go to the AFLIGA website. Let the discussion continue through the website. Please, let's start with you, Nadia, if you could. Any concluding thoughts you have, you could please share that.
Okay, I'd like to speak directly to my brothers and sisters, the fellow young ones. One of the marks of a leader is that they are a learner, is that they are not afraid to ask questions if they don't know. So to you, I would say, ask all the questions you need to. Ask your mothers, ask your fathers, learn from them, and become all that you've been called to be. I wish you the very best, and it's been an honor.
Thank you. A big round of applause for Nadia.
I also would like to speak to the young ones there, our sisters and brothers here today. It is very important that you know who you are, that you believe in yourself, you love who you are, you accept who you are, and not listen to anybody else. Be you, celebrate who, love yourselves unconditionally with permission from nobody. It's very important. You are beautiful, you are unique, you are born, there's nobody else who looks like you but you. You should be able to stand up in the mirror and say, yes, I am one in a million. I am a gem. I can do this. And no, I know you can. So believe in yourself, be your authentic self. Be your authentic self. That is very, very important. So please stay beautiful, love yourselves, and love each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nanahima. Please, let's appreciate her. Let's hear from Professor Candice.
I think I'll follow suit and also speak to our young members today. I want to say first, thank you for your attention. You all have really focused intently and listened to what has been shared today. So thank you for that. I want you to remain encouraged, not be encouraged, because I know you're already receiving that in numerous places, but I want you to remain encouraged. Each day is a new opportunity to move forward in whatever life is offering you. And so don't become discouraged as you move through each day, not about year, not about 20 years from now, but taking each day at a time and recognizing that you have new possibilities with each day, and remain encouraged.
Wow. Thank you very much, Professor Moore. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to echo the sentiments that have been expressed. But I also want to highlight that, you see, at the end of it all, it comes to the question of agency and resistance, right? People have to exercise their agency, and they have to resist. The problem is not women. The problem is the system. We have a patriarchal system which has been put in place, supported by a male-dominated regime. And that's what needs to be subverted. That's what needs to change, right? And the way we frame this discussion has to start from a different paradigm, right? It has to start from a different paradigm. The questions we ask is going to get us to different answers if we ask the right questions.
Wow. If we ask the right questions, we'll get the right answers. What a note on which to draw down the curtains for this very beautiful Thought Leadership Series. A big round of applause for all our discussants, all our speakers, and everyone who made this a possibility.